Welcome to The Explainer. Today we are going to tackle one of the most critical and, let's be honest, most mysterious systems in your entire home. Yep, we're talking about your HVAC.
All right, let's just jump right into a scenario that every single homeowner absolutely dreads. Because really, understanding what's at stake, that's the very first step to making sure you're prepared.
A quote like this really puts it all in perspective, doesn't it? This isn't just about being a little chilly. We're talking about a genuine safety issue.
So, Section 1, when your comfort fails. We're talking about recognizing those universal warning signs. And really, how do you avoid that nightmare scenario in the first place? Well, the good news is, your system, it almost always gives you little hints, these warning signs, long before it completely gives up the ghost. So let's talk about what you need to listen for, feel for, and yeah, even smell for.
Okay, first up is probably the most frustrating sign of them all. You can feel the air coming out of the vents, but it's just warm, room temperature. And no, you're not imagining it. This usually points to a big problem, like the heart of your AC, the compressor, has failed, or its lifeblood, the refrigerant, is leaking out. Either way, it's a huge red flag that your system needs professional help, and fast. Next up, noise. Look, your HVAC system, it's supposed to be pretty quiet, right? Kind of like a background hum. So if you suddenly hear clanking or banging or a loud screeching, that is literally your system screaming for help. Those sounds are classic signs of loose parts or, even worse, a motor that's on its last legs. All right, you also need to pay attention to the airflow itself. Just put your hand up to a vent. Does it feel weak, like barely there? If it does, your system is definitely struggling. Now sure, it could be something simple, like a clogged filter, an easy fix, but it could also be pointing to a much bigger, much more expensive problem. Leaky ducts that are just bleeding all that precious conditioned air right into your attic or walls. And finally, trust your nose. Seriously, never ignore weird smells coming from your vents. If you get a musty smell, that could be mold growing in the ductwork. Yikes. A burning smell? That might be a dangerous electrical issue. These aren't just little quirks. They are major red flags that demand immediate attention. We're talking about your system's health, sure, but more importantly, your family's safety. Okay, so Section 2, the climate versus your home. This is all about why your local weather is basically your HVAC system's biggest rival. So why do these systems fail in the first place? Well, a huge part of the answer is literally right outside your window. That relentless cycle of the seasons puts an absolutely incredible strain on all that equipment. In this table, using Bristol, Pennsylvania as an example, just perfectly illustrates the kind of pressure we're talking about. I mean, look at this. You've got two crazy extremes. In the summer, you're hitting the 90s with high humidity, which forces the AC compressor to work constantly. Then, bam, just a few months later, you're below 20 degrees, and the furnace is running nonstop, maybe for weeks on end. There's really no off-season for these machines, is there? And it's not just the temperature. Your specific location adds its own unique challenges. So if you live in a river valley with high humidity, that doesn't just make you feel sticky. It's the perfect breeding ground for mold in your ductwork. Live in an older home. You might be dealing with a system that was never sized correctly in the first place, so it's always struggling. And those brutal freeze-thaw cycles we get up north, they just wear out furnace components so much faster. Oh, and get this. Leaking ducts can waste up to 30% of your conditioned air. 30%! Okay, Section 3, repair, replace, or maintain. This is the three-pronged solution for any HVAC issue. So when you're faced with all these challenges, what do you do? Thankfully, your options really just boil down to three core strategies, and together, they basically form a complete playbook for any homeowner. So here's that playbook, and the crucial thing to remember is that you always have options. Right? You can be reactive and call for an emergency repair when something breaks, or you can be strategic and decide to replace an older, inefficient system before it fails. Or, and this is the best one, you can be proactive and get regular preventative maintenance to extend its life and hopefully avoid those emergencies altogether. And when you do have to make that call for service, here's what the process should look like. A professional job is designed to be totally transparent. It starts with your call, then a technician comes out and does a really thorough diagnosis to find the root cause. And here's the key part. You get an upfront estimate and you approve the cost before any work actually begins. That way, the job ends with a fully tested system and absolutely no surprise fees on your bill. All right, Section 4, the HVAC rulebook. We're going to decode the jargon so you can make smarter decisions.
See, now that we know the playbook, let's learn the rules of the game, so to speak. Understanding just a few key terms can totally empower you to make much, much smarter decisions about what is likely your home's most expensive appliance. First up is something called the $5,000 rule. And this is such a powerful little tool for making that tough repair versus replace decision. Here's how it works. You take the age of your unit and multiply it by the cost of the repair. So let's say your system is 12 years old and needs a $500 repair. Okay, 12 times 500 is $6,000. Since that number is over the $5,000 threshold, this rule is basically telling you, hey, it might be smarter financially to put that repair money towards a brand new system instead. Next term you need to know, SEER rating. That stands for Seasonal Energy Efficiency Ratio. The easiest way to think about it, it's just like miles per gallon for your car, but for your air conditioner. It's a direct measure of efficiency. It's really simple. The higher the SEER number, the less energy it guzzles, which means lower utility bills for you all summer long. So let's put that into perspective. Here's a little showdown, 13 SEER versus 16 SEER. A 13 SEER unit, that's kind of the baseline standard today. It has a lower upfront cost for sure, but a 16 SEER system, it's roughly 23% more energy efficient. That translates directly into lower operating costs month after month. Plus, the higher SEER systems often come with better tech, like two-stage or variable speed operation, which does a much better job controlling humidity. And if you live anywhere humid, you know that is a huge deal. And these three things right here, this is what truly separates a real professional from just some handyman with a truck. A pro will always follow state and local safety codes. That's non-negotiable. They'll have EPA certifications, which means they're legally allowed to handle refrigerants. And this last one is so important. They use proper engineering calculations, called a Manual J, to make sure your new system is sized perfectly for your home. Because here's the thing, a system that's too big is actually just as bad and inefficient as one that's too small. All right, final section. Section 5, Becoming a Smarter Homeowner. This is your checklist for taking control. We have covered a ton of ground. So what are the big takeaways? What are the things that really empower you, the homeowner, to get a handle on your home comfort system?
First things first, you gotta understand the typical lifespan. A system that's been well taken care of can last a good 15, maybe even 20 years. But, and this is huge, look at that last point. If you skip your annual maintenance, you can literally shave 5 years right off its life. 5 years. So the real sweet spot for even thinking about a replacement is around year 12. That way, you're planning ahead, not making a panic decision in the middle of a heat wave.
So here it is, your proactive checklist. These are simple, actionable things anybody can do. Number 1, get annual maintenance. A spring tune-up for the AC, a fall checkup for the heat. Easy? Change your air filters regularly. Set a reminder on your phone. Know the age of your system. Don't guess. And keep that $5,000 rule in your back pocket for when you need it. And finally, if you know a replacement is coming up, try to schedule it for the off-season, like fall or spring. Contractors are less busy, and you can often get much better pricing.
So we'll end with this one simple question. Is your home's most important system really ready for the next season? Because at the end of the day, being proactive, it isn't just about saving a few bucks. It's about making sure your home stays a safe, comfortable sanctuary for you and your family, no matter what wild weather is raging outside.